The morning sun was barely up when I spat out my coffee, staring at a water bill that hit me like a punch to the gut. $4.12 for a single month. I live alone in a modest house in Willow Creek, a quiet suburb outside Denver, in the spring of 2024. No lawn to water, no dripping faucets, no reason for this insanity. The last time I saw a bill this high, I'd left a sprinkler running for days by mistake, trying to revive a wilted rosebush. So, I figured it was a clerical error. But when the next bill rolled in even higher, I knew something was wrong. Then, around 5:30 every morning, a low, guttural rumble started vibrating under my driveway, not from my house, but from the concrete itself. I thought I was imagining things until I traced the sound to my backyard fence and uncovered a scandal that would turn my quiet life into a battlefield. My neighbor, Vanessa, had been up to something. For weeks, I'd heard construction noises from her property: hammers, drills, the grinding hum of heavy machinery. It wasn't out of character. Vanessa was always chasing some extravagant project. Last fall, she built a gazebo that collapsed under the first snow. The summer before, she installed a fountain that became a breeding ground for algae. But this was different, louder, more deliberate. When I asked her about it, she smirked and said, "Nothing that concerns tenants," which stung because I've owned my home for years, while she's the one renting. Vanessa had a knack for acting superior, especially since she'd cozied up to the neighborhood association president, Clara, who rubber-stamped her every whim. One crisp April morning, I stepped outside to grab my mail and froze. Over the fence, Vanessa's backyard sparkled with a brand-new, Olympic-sized in-ground pool, complete with neon floaties, a tiki bar, and Vanessa herself lounging on a velvet chaise, sipping a cocktail. A dozen neighbors, including Clara, milled around with drinks, laughing as a DJ set up his gear. My jaw dropped. Vanessa caught my stare and flashed a smile, not warm, but sharp, like she was daring me to say something. I tried to keep it civil. "Nice pool, Vanessa. How'd you get the permits so fast?" I asked. She took a long sip, tilted her head, and said, "Clara handled it. We worked around some red tape. You wouldn't get it." Then she turned away, posing for photos with her poodle in a tiny Hawaiian shirt. Something didn't add up. Pools don't appear overnight, and I hadn't seen any water trucks or piping deliveries. That night, I checked my water meter. It was spinning like a slot machine, even though nothing in my house was running. I shut off the main valve, waited, then turned it back, and still spinning. My gut twisted. I called my old friend Nate, a plumber with a knack for sniffing out trouble. He showed up the next day with his gear and ran a scan. What we found made my blood boil. Vanessa's pool pump was tapped directly into my water line, not the city's, not the association's mine. A concealed trench, disguised with ornamental gravel, ran from my outdoor line to her pump. Nate pointed out the professional-grade sealant hiding the connection. This wasn't a sloppy job. Someone had paid top dollar to steal my water and cover their tracks. I confronted Vanessa the next morning. She was pruning her roses in a silk scarf, playing the part of a suburban saint. I laid out the evidence, photos, videos, Nate's analysis. She didn't flinch. She removed her sunglasses, stared me down, and said, "You should feel privileged to contribute to my oasis." Then she sauntered back inside, leaving me speechless. Her audacity wasn't just infuriating, was a declaration of war. I stormed to the neighborhood association office, armed with proof, but Clara barely glanced at my documents. "Sounds like a misunderstanding," she said, flipping through a gardening magazine. "I'm sure Vanessa would share some wine if you asked nicely." When I demanded an investigation, she claimed there was no formal process for water disputes and hinted I might have agreed to the setup and was now stirring trouble. The gaslighting was unreal. To make matters worse, the next day, I found a citation on my door for unauthorized construction. Near my water line, Vanessa had flipped the script, accusing me of tampering with community utilities. I was now facing a $150 daily fine until I could prove my innocence. The final straw came when I received a permit request in my mailbox. Vanessa had filed plans to extend her pool deck right up to my property line, complete with a forged digital signature mine. She was trying to swallow my land and make it look like I'd approved it. That night, rage kept me awake, but by dawn, it hardened into resolve. Vanessa thought she could bully me into submission, but she didn't know I design utility systems for a living. I reroute networks for data centers, handling pipes, valves, and flows like a chess game. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd show her how the board really works. Nate and I got to work. We discovered an old, decommissioned septic line running under our street, including Vanessa's property. It was sealed but not disconnected, with just enough residual flow to make a point. We installed a remote-controlled valve system, precise and discreet, to divert a low-pressure stream in her pool, not enough to be hazardous, but enough to ruin her precious oasis. We hid cameras in my shed to capture the chaos. It was risky, petty, and absolutely brilliant. Vanessa's big association bash was set for Saturday in May, with over 200 guests, including influencers, local politicians, and Clara's clique. She'd rented chandeliers, a live band, even a dessert fountain. I called it the perfect stage for a downfall. Nate and I tested the system the night before, watching her pool lights shimmer, oblivious to the trap below. We clinked our beers and toasted to justice with a twist. The party morning dawned bright and smug. Vanessa strutted around in a flowing sundress, directing caterers like a movie star. Guests arrived, snapping selfies by the pool. At 1 p.m., Vanessa grabbed a mic, gave a speech about community spirit, and invited everyone to dive in. That was our signal. Nate hit the remote. 3 seconds later, the valve flipped. A murky, foul stream trickled into the pool, slow at first, then undeniable. A neon unicorn float drifted through a brownish haze. A teenager screamed, "Is that poop?" A mom sniffed the water and gagged. Panic erupted. Guests scrambled out, slipping on wet tiles, knocking over tables. Vanessa's face went from smug to horrified as the stench hit. "It's sewage," someone yelled. Phones were out, live streaming the disaster. Then, like a scripted twist, a health inspector arrived, tipped off, anonymously, of course. "This pool's contaminated," he declared. "We've got reports of illegal piping." "Party's over." Vanessa shrieked, blaming contractors, neighbors, even me. Clara tried to slip away, but the damage was done. A news van pulled up, filming Vanessa's meltdown as she slipped in her own poolside chaos, her sundress soaked, her dignity gone. The footage went viral by nightfall, dubbed the Sewage Queen splash. Social media exploded with memes. Vanessa's scream, a sludge-covered floatie, hashtags like pool of poop. The fallout was swift. The association held an emergency meeting, ousting Clara and fining Vanessa. Her pool was drained, her permits revoked, and the city slapped her with charges for water theft. A blogger exposed her scheme, using my leaked evidence, and neighbors turned on her. Vanessa tried to play the victim online, but the replies were savage. Steal water, swim in karma. She deleted her accounts and, weeks later, moved out, her house stripped bare. The neighborhood healed. New leadership cleaned up the association, and residents bonded over the shared victory. I never got my water bill refunded, but watching Vanessa's empire crumble was worth every cent. One evening, as I fixed my sprinklers, a new neighbor asked, "Is this the place with the pool fiasco?" I grinned. "Yeah, but it's crystal clear now." So what do you think? Was I wrong to take justice into my own hands? Or did Vanessa deserve every drop of that karma? Should neighbors fight fire with fire? Or is there a better way to handle bullies like her? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more wild stories.